everybody. So in this video, I'm going to go over the syllabus for our course. I'm not going to read through the entire thing. You can read it on your own, but I do want to hit some of the highlights of the syllabus so that you are aware of the important elements here at the beginning of the term. There will be an assignment in week 1 that asks you to state that you have read over the syllabus and watched this video and that you understand everything contained in the syllabus. So make sure that you are listening to the highlights of this, not only because you need to do that assignment, but also because this information is pretty important and will be useful to you throughout the term. So you'll see under the video that there is a link to the syllabus in a Word document if you would like to view it in that manner. But remember that there is a PDF of the syllabus up under the Getting Started section as well. So you can view it either way. Also, you can print it off if you want, but that's totally up to you. When you look at the syllabus, though, obviously on the first page, you'll see all of the technical information for the course. Some important information to look at there on page 1 in the little top block. Keep in mind how many credit hours the course is. This is a 4 credit hour class, which means over 10 weeks you get 40 hours of lecture and then an additional 20 hours of outside work spread over 10 weeks. So 40 hours of in-class work and 20 hours of homework spread over 10 weeks. That averages out to 6 hours per week. And remember, when you are in a class on campus, those 40 hours, 4 hours each week, happen in the classroom, and then it's a couple hours of homework each week. This is an online course, so you are responsible for doing all 6 hours on your own. But just, so it's going to seem like a lot more work than it normally would. But it's still a 40-hour lecture class with 20 hours of outside work. So no matter whether you take the class on campus or online, it's only online, at this point, you're still required to do 6 hours of work each week. That includes reading through lessons, PowerPoints, watching my videos, and doing the homework assignments. All of that should average to roughly 6 hours each week. Additional important information on that first page is my cell phone number and my email address. That cell phone number is my personal cell. I give it to students because I'm not always at the computer to check email or check messages through the student portal system. So if there is an emergency, you have my contact information to contact me directly. I would say use text. Text is probably the best way to go because I often don't answer my phone, especially if I don't recognize the number, but also because my children are very loud and it's hard to have a decent phone conversation. But I will text you back right away. But my number's there if you need it. Some other important things that you might want to take a look at on the first and second page are the course objectives. Just read through those so that you understand what this class is all about. It's, it's a composition course. We are covering the basics of essay writing. We are also covering research and APA format. So you can see those objectives, exactly what you're supposed to learn through this course. Another important thing to look at on the second page of the syllabus is the grading scale. Please keep in mind that you need a 70% or higher in order to pass this class. A 69 or lower is a failing grade. Underneath that, you'll see how the grades are distributed for the course, right? So 15% of your overall grade comes from the weekly discussions. That might not seem like a significant percentage. However, if you don't do the discussions, you automatically can't get an A in the class. The highest you can get is a B, and that's if you get perfect scores on everything else. So it's very important that you do the weekly discussions. Missing one, maybe two, won't affect your overall grade that much, but missing too many of them can definitely put you at a disadvantage. Because again, remember, you have to have a 70% or higher to pass. If you don't do any of the discussions, you're already at an 85. That's where you're starting. So make sure you're keeping up on the discussions. The assignments, and these are what I call normal assignments each week, are worth 25% of your overall grade. So again, missing a couple of them, not going to be a big deal. Missing a lot of them, it will definitely affect your overall grade. The next item that makes up your overall grade is the course project. I will be explaining the course project in more detail in another video here in week 1. I'll give you a brief overview of the whole thing and each part, but what you need to know right now is the course project as a whole is worth 45% of your overall grade. That's significant. It is the most comprehensive part of the course is that course project. It is almost like an exam, except this is a composition course, so we don't take exams, like multiple choice and true or false and fill in the blank. It's a composition course, so you get evaluated based on composition skills. So that's why this course project is worth so much. Again, I'll go into more detail about it, but it is a research paper. I'll tell you that now. It is broken down into 4 parts though. So project part 1 will be worth 15% of that 45%. Project part 2 also worth 15% of the 45%. Project part 3 is worth 20% of the 45, and project part 4 is worth 50% of that 45. Alright, so definitely want to make sure you're keeping up with the course project when we start working on it. And then the final thing that makes up your overall grade is a reflective essay that you will do in the final week of the course. It's worth 15% of your overall grade. So again, make sure that you don't forget about that in the last week, because without that, again, the highest you could possibly get is an 85% in the class. And since you need a 70 or higher in order to pass, you want to make sure that you're getting as many points from each category here as possible. Stay up on those discussions, try to make sure you're turning in all or at least most of the homework assignments. Make sure that you are doing the course project and using my feedback to help you along the way, and make sure that you do that reflective essay at the end of the term. Okay. Let's see. You keep scrolling down, you'll end up seeing the course outline. This is a very abbreviated version of what we will cover each week. There's not a lot of detail given on the course outline. It really is just a bulleted list, but it can be useful for you for planning purposes. You can look through and see, when course project parts are going to be assigned or things like that. And you can see the dates for each week. So it can help you plan ahead if needed. But this really isn't where you want to go for detailed information. After the course outline are sort of my personal policies. A respect policy really only applies to the discussions. That's sort of the only area where we will be working together as a class. But you do want to keep in mind that you should remain respectful and professional at all times. The attendance policy, I don't have a separate attendance policy for my class, It falls in line with ATA's attendance policy. You know, you have to submit a graded item each week in order to be counted present. If you happen to miss and get marked absent, you need to make sure that you aren't absent for more than 2 weeks out of the term. Once you're absent for a third week, you're at risk for being withdrawn. And that's not consecutive. That's at any point during the term. But just like with any class, you want to try to make sure you're staying on top of things. And being present in the course is the best way to give yourself an advantage. So even though this is an online class, you still want to be present in it. You want to be here every week, going through the lessons and doing the assignments. If you're having a particularly busy week, a stressful time, whatever the case may be, reach out to me and let me know. We want to make sure that you're still getting your attendance triggered, but you know, in addition to that, making sure that you're not falling too far behind in the course. So even though we don't see each other face to face, and you have the whole week to do the work at your own leisure, still keep in touch with me if you're starting to struggle with keeping up with attendance and falling behind with the work. Which leads to the next thing on the instructor policies, which is my late work policy. I tell students to assume that, you know, nothing can be turned in late, that I won't accept anything late, but that's not really true. As long as students are communicating with me, I try to be flexible. And I want students to succeed in the course, and I know sometimes we just have things going on. There's tough weeks, tough quarters. And so I try to work with students as much as possible, but it's up to you to reach out to me to come to an agreement on when you're going to be turning late work in. I try to get students to submit things within 2 weeks of an assignment being due. Once you go past 2 weeks, it starts to become unfair for students who are keeping up with the work, that a student who, you know, isn't turning things in on time can still turn it in 4 weeks down the road. That's not really fair. However, again, if we are communicating and we're on the same page and we have a game plan for when you're going to submit late work, you know, I can work with you on that. However, the one deadline that is non-negotiable is I will not accept any late work at all past week 9. That's just no exceptions to that. Once we get to the final week of the course, there's a lot of papers to be graded, essays to be graded, and at that point, I'm focusing on those final items, grading those, and getting final grades for the class calculated. So no late work will be accepted past week 9. Got it? Alright, the next item in the syllabus is the plagiarism policy. Alright, so we're going to talk extensively about plagiarism in this course. The course project is a research paper, so we are going to be learning about APA format and how to handle sources properly. But you need to know right up front that plagiarism can constitute a lot of different things, but it's at its core, plagiarism is the intentional or accidental misrepresentation of someone else's work or research as your own. It can be the littlest things. I'm not just talking about the research paper here. Any assignment that you submit, discussions that you submit, if there is anything that you turn in for a grade that is not your own ideas or words, or that hasn't been cited properly, if it is someone else's ideas or words, you will receive a 0. You might be given an opportunity to fix it, right? But possibly not. So try to make sure that you are using your own ideas and using your own words. When it comes to the research paper, that's a little different because you have to use sources for that, but as long as, that's why it's important to learn how to cite them properly, which we will do. But basically, just don't go copying and pasting things and trying to pass it off as your own. That's plagiarism. We will talk more extensively about plagiarism in the first few weeks of the course. If you have any questions right now, though, please reach out to me. The next part of the syllabus just goes through each of the categories of grades, where your grade comes from, and explains them in a little more detail. So remember, the first category is the discussion forums. You'll have one each week, except for the very last week. So you'll have 9 total. Weeks 1 through 9, you'll have a discussion. You're expected to post your initial response by Thursday at 11:59 p.m., and then you'll need to respond to 2 classmates by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. The idea is that if everybody has their first post up by Thursday night, everyone will have plenty of classmates to choose from to respond to by Sunday night. The discussions will close each week at 11:59 on Sunday night, and once they're closed, you will not be able to post to them. Please make sure that you're staying up on those. It's really easy to lose track of time sometimes, and if you can't make the Thursday night post, still do it late, but you have to make sure that it's all completed by Sunday night. Because again, once the discussion closes Sunday at 11:59 p.m., it is closed for good and they will not be reopened. And remember, the discussions are worth 15% of your overall grade. You want to keep up on those. The next category was exercises and assignments. So these are just, the other assignments that you'll do each week. There'll be a weekly journal, which is like a 10-minute assignment each week. Other homework items that we're working on, as practice for each lesson that you're learning. Some of them will be as text submission, where you'll type your answers or type your response right in the box and submit it. Other items will be in a Word document. If you don't have access to Microsoft Word, you can also use Google Docs or a PDF. I actually give instructions for how to do Google Docs and under the Getting Started section, so that can come in handy if needed. I can be flexible with the Word documents as well. Even if you can't do Word, can't do Google Docs, can't do a PDF, reach out to me and we will come up with a different solution for you. But the one item that has to be done in a formal document is the course project, the research paper. So the rough draft and the final draft, which are projects part 3 and project part 4, those need to be done either in a Word document, Google Doc, or PDF. Everything else I can work with you on, right? Just reach out to me. The homework assignments are graded based on effort, not correctness. So if you're doing it and you're following the instructions, then you're going to get full credit for it because they're designed as practice. And I don't believe in penalizing students for practice. You get formally graded when I grade the research paper and the reflective essay. So, but the smaller assignments along the way, I'm looking for effort. I'm looking to see that you're trying, to improve your skills. The homework assignments are worth 25% of your overall grade. Missing a couple will not have that much of an effect. Missing, a lot of them, it will definitely affect your grade. So try to stay on top of those. The next component of your overall grade is the course project. There's another video where I go into more detail about the course project here in week 1. But it's broken down into 4 parts. Each part will have its own separate assignment, in that particular week. The whole thing is worth 45% of your overall grade. It says in the syllabus here that each project part is mandatory, and must be submitted in order to pass the class. That is because I need to check what you do on each part before you can move on to the next part. So you have to submit project part 1 and get my feedback on it so that you can move on to project part 2. You have to submit project part 2 and get my feedback on it in order to do project part 3. Same thing with project part 3. You have to turn it in and receive my feedback in order to move on to project part 4. Project part 4 is the final draft of the research paper, and it is worth such a significant portion of your overall grade that if you don't turn it in, you'll fail the class. There's no way mathematically. So that is what I mean by each project part is mandatory. You have to submit each one and get my feedback in order to move on to the next. And if you can't get to that final part, project part 4, just the numbers will cause you to fail. Right? Now, if you're turning them in late, that's different, you know, but you have to turn them in to move on to the next part. I highly suggest, though, trying to stay on track with each project part, because the worst thing in the world is to only have 2 or 3 weeks left in the term and have all of that work to do. It's too hard. So try to keep up with the course project. Again, it'll be required to be in either a Word document, a Google Doc, or a PDF. So just know that right now. Project Part 1 and Project Part 2, I can work with you on. But Project Part 3 and Project Part 4 need to be in a formal document. Okay. Let's see. The last section of your grade comes from the reflective essay. It will be in the last week of the term. You can kind of think of it like your final exam, except again, this is a composition course, so we don't take normal exams. You get evaluated based on composition skills. So it'll be a reflective essay. You'll have a prompt with very specific questions, and it's just like what it sounds. It's a reflection. You are going to be asked some very specific questions about your experience in the class. And again, it kind of serves as like your final exam. It is also a mandatory component. Just like you wouldn't go into a biology class or a math class and think that you could skip the final exam and pass the course. Everybody knows you have to take the final. The reflective essay is our final. Got it? It's not graded. It's not going to have to be in APA format or anything like that. So it is a significant element of the course, but it will be very personalized to you, and students usually do very well with it. Okay. The last page of the syllabus is the acknowledgement receipt. If we were in the classroom, you would fill that out and hand it back in to me. Obviously, we're not in the classroom, and instead of trying to get students to print this out and sign it and scan it and blah, 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 there will be an assignment in week 1 that asks you to state that you have read over the syllabus and watched the video and that you agree to the policies. So that's where you will, acknowledge that you have, read the syllabus. And that's it. Those are the highlights, the important information that I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of right from the get-go. If you have any questions or concerns about anything that I've mentioned here, reach out to me. Otherwise, you're free to move on to the next thing.